I want to ask you something. How much of your energy today is actually yours, and how much of it is trapped in thoughts about someone else? Their opinion, their reaction, their approval. You replay conversations that already ended. You imagine futures that may never come. Tell me, how free can your mind be if it is always living in someone else? And here is the real question. What would your life become the moment you stopped thinking too much about anyone and started standing fully in yourself? In Shaolin, we learned this early. Where the mind goes, energy flows. If your mind is constantly occupied with others, your life will always belong to others. Thinking too much about people is not kindness, it is attachment. And attachment slowly steals your clarity, your strength, your direction. Today, I will show you how to free your mind from unnecessary emotional weight, so you can walk your path with calm, discipline, and inner authority. And here is my promise to you. If you truly understand this wisdom and apply it, you will stop leaking your energy into people who do not walk your path, and you will reclaim the mental strength, peace, and self-respect that no one can take from you. 1. Your mind is a sacred space. Not everyone deserves access. Your mind is not a marketplace. It is a temple. Yet most people leave the doors open, day and night, allowing anyone to enter. Thoughts of others walk in without permission. Opinions sit down comfortably. Judgments speak loudly. Memories replay themselves again and again. And slowly, without noticing, the sacred becomes crowded. A sacred space requires protection, not walls of aggression, not distance built from anger, but awareness. Every thought you allow inside shapes the condition of your inner world. If your mind is filled with noise, you will mistake chaos for life. If your mind is filled with stillness, you will recognize truth immediately. Many people ask why they feel exhausted, even when doing nothing. It is because their mind is constantly hosting guests who never leave. They think about what was said. They think about what should have been said. They imagine conversations that may never happen. This is not thinking. This is mental occupation. A sacred space does not explain itself. It does not beg to be understood. It simply remains protected. When you guard your mind, you are not becoming cold. You are becoming precise. You are learning discernment. Not everyone who knocks deserves entry. Some come to take energy. Some come to plant doubt. Some come because you have made it too easy. The mind that belongs to everyone belongs to no one. And most dangerously, it stops belonging to you. Observe how quickly peace returns when you stop entertaining unnecessary thoughts about others. Observe how clarity emerges when you withdraw attention from people who do not contribute to your growth. This is not rejection. This is respect for your inner world. A sacred space must be clean, and cleaning begins with recognizing what does not belong. When you stop giving everyone access to your mind, you begin to notice something subtle. Your breath slows, your posture changes, your decisions become simpler, because now your energy is no longer scattered. And once you recognize how powerful your mind feels when protected, you start to realize something uncomfortable yet liberating. Many of your struggles were never caused by people themselves, but by how much space you gave them inside you. And this realization quietly leads you to the next truth. What drains you is not others, it is what you carry for them. 2. Overthinking others is self-neglect in disguise. Overthinking feels responsible, it feels caring, it feels like effort. But in reality, overthinking others is often avoidance of yourself. When you focus excessively on someone else's behavior, emotions, intentions, or reactions, your attention leaves your own needs unnoticed. Your own boundaries soften, your own direction blurs. You tell yourself you are trying to understand them, but what you are really doing is postponing your own growth. Every hour spent analyzing someone else is an hour taken away from self-observation, and without self-observation, there is no transformation. Self-neglect is quiet. It does not announce itself. It disguises itself as concern, as loyalty, as empathy. But empathy without boundaries becomes erosion. Ask yourself honestly, how often do you ignore your own discomfort to maintain peace? How often do you silence your inner voice to avoid conflict? How often do you exhaust your mind replaying interactions instead of asking what you truly need? Overthinking others keeps you busy but not fulfilled. It creates the illusion of movement while keeping you stuck. When attention flows outward excessively, self-awareness weakens. You begin to measure your worth through reactions. You adjust yourself to avoid rejection. You compromise truth for acceptance. And slowly, you forget what it feels like to be aligned. Self-neglect is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is simply choosing not to listen to your own fatigue, not honoring your limits, not resting when you should. When you stop overthinking others, something unfamiliar happens. Silence appears. At first, silence feels uncomfortable, because in silence, you must face yourself, your desires, your fears, your unresolved questions. This is why many people avoid silence. They prefer the noise of other people's lives. But silence is where responsibility returns to you. Overthinking others is easier than making decisions. It is easier than setting boundaries. It is easier than accepting that not everything is your responsibility. The moment you redirect attention inward, growth begins, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily. You start noticing how much energy you have been wasting, and how much strength returns when you stop. And with this strength comes a new understanding. You cannot build yourself while constantly monitoring others, which leads naturally to the next realization. Where your attention lives, your life follows. 3. People come and go. Your discipline must remain. People are seasons. They enter, they influence, they leave. Discipline is a foundation. It remains when everything else changes. Many lose their rhythm when people change. Their habits collapse. Their focus weakens. Their identity becomes unstable. This happens when discipline is attached to external presence. When your discipline depends on who is around you, it is not discipline, it is motivation. Motivation fluctuates, discipline endures. People will disappoint you. They will misunderstand you. They will walk away without explanation. If your structure depends on them, you will collapse each time. Discipline is loyalty to your path, regardless of who stays or leaves. It is waking up and showing up even when no one is watching. It is continuing when validation disappears. When people leave, they often take noise with them. If you are disciplined, silence becomes fuel. If you are not, silence becomes emptiness. Discipline anchors you to yourself. It reminds you who you are when external identity fades. This is why discipline must be internal, not borrowed, not inspired temporarily, but built daily. People are not permanent. Your responsibility to yourself is, when discipline is strong, loss does not derail you, change does not break you, distance does not weaken you. You continue, and something powerful happens when others see this. Respect grows quietly, not because you demand it, but because you are unmovable. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-trust in action. When people come, you walk with them. When they go, you walk alone. But the pace remains. And in this steadiness, clarity sharpens. You begin to understand that real stability was never in people. It was always in your commitment to yourself. And once this understanding settles, the mind no longer clings, because you finally know what remains when everything else leaves. 4. Approval is the weakest form of motivation. Approval feels powerful only when you have forgotten your own direction. It enters quietly, dressed as encouragement, sounding like support, appearing like belonging. But approval is borrowed strength. And borrowed strength always comes with conditions. When you move because someone is watching, your movement is no longer yours. Your posture changes. Your breath tightens. Your choices become cautious. You begin adjusting not for truth, but for reaction. Approval-based motivation does not ask what is right. It asks what is acceptable. The danger is not that approval feels good. The danger is that it feels necessary. Once necessity forms, dependence follows. And where there is dependence, there is fear. Fear of disappointing. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being unseen. This fear becomes the hidden driver behind effort. You work harder but not deeper. You improve performance but not alignment. Your actions become louder while your inner voice grows quiet. Approval shifts the source of authority outward. Instead of standing in self-respect, you lean on validation. Instead of listening inward, you scan outward. This is how people lose themselves without realizing it. True motivation is silent. It does not require applause. It does not announce itself. It moves even when no one notices. Approval-based motivation collapses. The moment attention disappears. When praise stops, doubt begins. When recognition fades, discipline weakens. Ask yourself honestly, if no one knew what you were doing, would you still do it? If no one clapped, would you continue? If no one approved, would you remain steady? If the answer is no, then approval is not supporting you. It is controlling you. Strength that depends on approval is fragile. It shatters under criticism. It bends under pressure. It seeks permission before moving. When you release the need for approval, something uncomfortable arises. Silence, uncertainty, responsibility. Now there is no one to impress, no one to blame, no one to lean on, only you. This moment feels empty at first, but emptiness is not absence, it is space. And in this space, something stronger than approval begins to form. Because when approval loses its grip, attachment becomes visible. 5. Attachment creates suffering, not connection. Attachment often hides behind the word connection, but connection flows freely. Attachment clings. Connection allows movement. Attachment resists change. Attachment is born when fear enters relationship. Fear of loss, fear of loneliness, fear of being incomplete. When attachment forms, the mind tightens. It holds, it expects. It demands stability from something that is never stable. People change. Emotions shift. Circumstances move. Attachment says, stay the same. Reality says, everything moves. This conflict creates suffering. Attachment convinces you that peace exists outside of you, that someone else holds the key to your calm, that your happiness depends on their presence, behavior, or consistency. This belief is heavy. It turns connection into pressure. It transforms love into control. The attached mind monitors constantly. It watches tone. It analyzes distance. It reacts to silence. Instead of experiencing the present, it prepares for loss. This preparation drains life from the moment. Joy becomes fragile. Trust becomes conditional. Attachment does not strengthen bonds. It suffocates them. True connection breathes. It allows space. It respects autonomy. Attachment fears space. It fills it with assumptions. It interprets it as threat. When you let go of attachment, you do not lose people. You lose illusion. The illusion that someone can complete you. The illusion that stability comes from outside. The illusion that holding tighter creates security. Letting go feels like falling at first because you were leaning on something external. When it disappears, balance must be found internally. This is where suffering transforms. Without attachment, you relate without fear. You care without clinging. You connect without controlling. And paradoxically, this freedom deepens relationships because now they are chosen, not needed. Attachment says, I cannot lose you. Freedom says, I choose to walk with you. Only one of these creates peace. When attachment dissolves, clarity sharpens. And with clarity comes a quiet power, because now respect replaces need. 6. Silence reveals who truly matters. Silence is not emptiness. It is truth without decoration. When you stop reaching, stop explaining, stop chasing, silence enters. And in silence, reality speaks. Those who truly matter do not disappear in quiet. They remain steady. They do not demand performance. They do not require constant reassurance. Others fade, not because you pushed them away, but because noise was the only thing holding them close. Silence removes confusion. It strips away false urgency. It exposes who is present without effort. Many fear silence because it removes control. There is nothing to manage, nothing to adjust, nothing to prove. In silence, intentions reveal themselves. Those who value you will meet you there. Those who depended on your attention will drift away. This is not loss, it is clarity. Silence teaches discernment. It shows you where energy was wasted. It shows you who required too much explanation. In silence, the mind settles, the breath deepens, the body relaxes. And from this stillness, you begin to see your life clearly, who supports your growth, who respects your boundaries, who only appeared when you were useful. Silence does not judge. It reveals. When you embrace silence, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop chasing understanding. You stop explaining yourself to those who never intended to listen. What remains is simple: presence, respect, truth. And with this truth, the mind no longer clings because it finally knows where to stand. 7. If someone confuses you, step back, not closer. Confusion is a signal, not an invitation. When someone's words and actions do not align, the mind instinctively moves closer. It tries to resolve, it seeks explanation, it wants clarity. But confusion does not disappear through proximity, it dissolves through distance. Stepping closer to confusion often deepens it. You ask more questions, you replay conversations, you interpret tone, you search for meaning where consistency is absent. This effort exhausts the mind. Confusion arises when truth is uneven, when signals are mixed, when presence is inconsistent. In such moments, the disciplined response is not pursuit, it is pause. Steppy. NG back creates perspective. It slows emotional momentum. It allows observation without entanglement. When you step back, patterns reveal themselves. What felt unclear up close becomes obvious from afar. Intentions surface, motives clarify. Confusion often feeds on urgency. When you remove urgency, confusion weakens. The need to understand immediately is rooted in discomfort. The mind seeks certainty to feel safe. But safety built on rushed understanding is unstable. Distance creates neutrality. Neutrality restores clarity. Stepping back is not withdrawal, it is regulation. It allows you to separate emotion from information, reaction from insight. Those who are aligned do not become distant when you step back. They remain present. They do not punish you for reflection. Those who rely on confusion lose influence in silence. When you stop chasing clarity, clarity often arrives on its own, because what is real does not require pursuit. This discipline protects energy, it prevents emotional spirals, it preserves dignity. Confusion is not a puzzle to solve, it is feedback. And once you respect that feedback, you begin to notice how often confusion was pulling you away from your center. Because confusion is not the greatest danger. Reaction is 8. Emotional reactions give away power. Reaction is fast, power is slow. The moment you react emotionally, control shifts outward. Your inner state becomes dependent on external behavior. This is the silent transaction many do not notice. A word is spoken, a gesture is perceived, and power is handed over instantly. Reaction feels justified, it feels honest, it feels human. But reaction is not expression, it is exposure. When you react, your inner world becomes visible. Your triggers announce themselves, your vulnerabilities reveal their location. Those who master themselves do not suppress emotion, they regulate response. There is a space between stimulus and action. In that space, power lives, reaction collapses that space. When you react, you speak before understanding, you act before grounding, you decide before clarity. This leads to regret disguised as explanation. Emotional reactions strengthen external influence. They teach others how to move you. They show where your balance is weak. Power is not loud. It does not rush to defend itself. It does not explain impulsively. Power observes. When you feel the urge to react, pause, feel the sensation, notice the breath, let the wave pass. Emotion is temporary. Reaction makes it permanent. Those who provoke seek reaction. Those who manipulate rely on it. Those who lack control fear your calm. When you stop reacting, dynamics change, conversations slow, conflicts soften, respect shifts. Not everyone will like this version of you because you are no longer predictable. Stillness is unsettling to those who rely on chaos. Emotional mastery does not remove feeling, it removes compulsion. You still feel deeply, but you choose when and how to respond. This choice restores authority. And once authority returns, clarity follows. Because when reaction ends, observation begins. 9. Clarity begins when obsession ends. Obsession narrows vision. Clarity expands it. When the mind fixates, perspective collapses. Everything begins to revolve around one person, one outcome, one possibility. Obsession feels intense, it feels meaningful, it feels urgent. But urgency distorts truth. The obsessed mind cannot see alternatives. It ignores signals that contradict desire. It filters reality to protect attachment. Clarity requires distance. Obsession eliminates distance. When you are obsessed, you interpret everything as significant. A message means more than it does. A silence feels louder than it is. A moment becomes a prediction. This mental intensity consumes energy. It pulls attention inward in a constricted loop. Clarity arrives when you release fixation, when you stop feeding the cycle, when you allow the mind to widen. Letting go of obsession feels like loss at first, because identity was attached to focus. When focus dissolves, space appears. This space is uncomfortable. It is quiet, it demands presence, but in this space, reality returns. You begin to see patterns clearly. You recognize imbalance without justification. You understand without emotional distortion. The question asks, what does this mean? Clarity asks, what is this showing me? When obsession ends, peace is no longer postponed. It becomes immediate. The mind regains neutrality. Decisions simplify. Emotions stabilize. You stop chasing certainty. You start trusting awareness. Clarity does not arrive dramatically. It settles gently, like fog lifting without announcement. And once it arrives, it does not beg you to hold on. Because clarity does not cling. It remains. 10. You are not responsible for how others feel. Responsibility begins where choice exists, ends where control does not. Many carry emotional burdens that were never theirs to hold. They are just words, they soften truth, they silence instinct, all to manage how others might feel. This is not compassion, it is overreach. You are responsible for your intention, for your actions, for your integrity. You are not responsible for emotional reactions formed inside another person's history, expectations, and wounds. When you take responsibility for others' feelings, you begin to live cautiously. Every decision passes through imagined reactions. Every truth is filtered. Every boundary is delayed. This creates inner tension. because truth wants expression, but fear of impact restrains it. The result is resentment turned inward. You begin to feel heavy without knowing why, because you are carrying emotions that do not belong to you. People feel what they feel based on their interpretation, not your existence. You can act with respect and still disappoint. You can speak honestly and still trigger pain. You can choose yourself and still be misunderstood. This does not mean you are wrong. When you release responsibility for others, emotions, clarity returns. You stop negotiating your needs. You stop explaining yourself excessively. You stop apologizing for being aligned. This does not make you careless. It makes you grounded. True responsibility is knowing where your role ends and ending it cleanly. When you allow others to feel what they feel, you return dignity to both sides. You allow them ownership of their inner world, and you reclaim your own. This creates emotional independence, not separation, not distance, but balance. And with balance, something essential emerges. Because once you stop carrying emotions that are not yours, you begin to understand the importance of boundaries. 11. Strong boundaries create inner peace. Peace is not found through accommodation. It is built through structure. Boundaries are not walls. They are agreements with yourself. They define where you end and another begins. They protect energy. They preserve clarity. Without boundaries, life becomes invasive. Requests pile up. Expectations grow. Resentment follows. Many avoid boundaries because they fear rejection. They fear conflict. They fear appearing selfish. But boundaries are not rejection. They are definition. When you set a boundary, you are not controlling others. You are communicating limits. Strong boundaries reduce confusion. They remove guesswork. They simplify relationships. People who respect you will respect your boundaries. Those who benefit from your lack of them will resist. Resistance is information. Boundaries teach others how to treat you. And more importantly, they teach you how to treat yourself. Each time you uphold a boundary, self-trust strengthens. Each time you abandon one, self-respect weakens. Peace does not come from being liked. It comes from being aligned. Boundaries make alignment visible. They require courage at first because they change dynamics. They expose imbalance. They invite reaction. But once established, boundaries create calm. Because you no longer argue internally. You know where you stand. You know what you allow. You know when to step back. Strong boundaries reduce emotional fatigue. They prevent overextension. They allow rest without guilt. They are not rigid, they are responsive. Boundaries can be adjusted, but they are never abandoned. When boundaries are clear, communication improves. Conflict decreases. Respect increases. And slowly, peace becomes consistent. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become clearer. And clarity leads to a subtle but powerful shift. Because when peace stabilizes, respect changes its form. 12. Respect grows when neediness disappears. Neediness seeks. Respect responds. When you need validation, approval, or reassurance, energy flows outward. You chase signals. You wait for responses. You depend on feedback. This dependence weakens presence. Neediness communicates uncertainty. T says, I am not enough on my own. Even when unspoken, it is felt. Respect cannot grow in this soil. Respect emerges when you stand complete, when your worth is not negotiable, when your direction is not dependent. This does not mean isolation, it means stability. When you stop needing, you stop forcing. You stop explaining. You stop performing. You become consistent. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds respect. Neediness rushes connection. Respect allows timing. When you release the need to be chosen, something paradoxical happens. You become more grounded, more present, more composed. People sense this shift. You no longer pull. You no longer cling. You no longer seek reassurance. You engage from fullness. Respect is drawn to those who are self-contained, who do not require saving, who do not demand completion. This presence creates gravity. Not everyone will stay, because neediness was the bond. When it disappears, only alignment remains. This is not loss, it is refinement. Respect does not need noise, it grows quietly. And when neediness dissolves, the mind settles, because now nothing is being chased, nothing is being forced, nothing is being proven. Only clarity remains. 13. What you chase controls you. Whatever you chase gains power over you, not because it is stronger, but because you have placed it above yourself. Chasing creates hierarchy. It places you below the object of pursuit, whether it is a person, validation, success, or certain. Thank you. The act of chasing signals dependence. Dependence weakens presence. When you chase, your attention moves outward. Your posture leans forward. Your breath shortens. Your awareness narrows. You begin to adjust yourself to reach something that stays just ahead of you. This movement creates tension. Chasing keeps the mind restless. It fuels impatience. It amplifies urgency. It turns desire into pressure. The mind tells itself that peace will arrive once the object is reached, but peace delayed is peace denied. What you chase dictates your emotional state. If it moves closer, you feel relief. If it moves away, you feel anxiety. This fluctuation is control. True power does not pursue, it attracts. When you stop chasing, the inner state stabilizes. You are no longer pulled by external motion. You stand rooted. Rootedness changes everything. From this place, you can observe desire without obeying it. You can feel ambition without becoming desperate. You can want without needing. This is mastery. Chasing exhausts energy. Presence preserves it. When you no longer chase people, you see who walks beside you naturally. When you no longer chase outcomes, you see which actions matter regardless of result. Stillness reveals alignment. Letting go of the chase feels uncomfortable at first, because momentum was replacing direction. Once momentum stops, you must choose consciously. This choice returns authority to you. You no longer move because something pulls you. You move because you decide. And once you experience this shift, you begin to understand something deeper. Freedom is not found in reaching, it is found in standing. And when you stop chasing, you also stop fearing misunderstanding. 14. Let people misunderstand you. Stay disciplined. Misunderstanding is inevitable when you stop performing. When you live according to discipline rather than approval, not everyone will understand your choices. Some will question your silence. Some will misinterpret your distance. Some will assign meaning where none exists. The undisciplined mind rushes to explain. It seeks correction. It wants to be seen accurately. Discipline remains steady. Explaining yourself repeatedly is a form of seeking permission. It signals insecurity. Discipline does not require agreement. It requires alignment. When you stay disciplined, actions speak consistently. Over time, clarity emerges without explanation. Misunderstanding is uncomfortable because it challenges identity. The ego wants recognition. It wants to be known. But discipline is not about image. It is about structure. When you let people misunderstand you, you conserve energy. You redirect focus inward. You stop managing narratives. This frees the mind. Those who are aligned will observe patterns, not rumors. They will see consistency, not stories. Others will project. Projection reveals more about them than about you. Discipline is quiet strength. It does not argue. It does not convince. It continues. This continuation builds credibility over time, not with everyone, but with those who matter. Letting go of being understood is a form of liberation. It removes the need to perform emotionally. It reduces reaction. You begin to move with clarity rather than defensiveness. Misunderstanding loses its sting when self-trust is strong, because you know why you move the way you do. This knowing creates calm, and calm sharpens focus. Because once you stop explaining yourself, attention returns to the path. 15. Your path requires focus, not emotional noise. A clear path demands quiet. Emotional noise distracts. It pulls attention sideways. It fragments intention. Noise comes from unresolved reactions, lingering attachments, and unprocessed expectations. When emotional noise is high, decisions become heavy. Simple choices feel complex. Progress slows. Focus is not intensity. It is exclusion. It is the ability to say no internally, to let thoughts pass without engagement, to stay with what matters. Your path does not require you to carry every feeling. It requires discernment. When focus strengthens, emotional noise fades naturally, not because emotions disappear, but because they no longer dominate direction. Focus aligns action with purpose. It simplifies movement. It removes unnecessary effort. Many mistake emotional engagement for depth. But depth comes from consistency, not intensity. A focused mind does not scatter energy, it channels it. This channeling creates momentum without chaos. When you remove emotional noise, intuition becomes audible. You begin to sense when to move and when to pause, when to engage and when to withdraw. This sensitivity is lost in noise. Focus requires discipline, not force, but commitment. Commitment to clarity, commitment to simplicity, commitment to inner order. Your path is unique. It cannot be walked while listening to every voice. When focus stabilizes, confidence emerges quietly, not from certainty, but from presence. And in this presence, the mind no longer wanders, because it has found where it belongs. 16. Thinking less about others strengthens self-mastery. Self-mastery begins the moment attention returns home. Not dramatically, not forcefully, but quietly. Thinking less about others does not mean becoming indifferent. It means becoming centered. It means reclaiming the space where decisions are made without interference. Most inner conflict is not caused by life itself. It is caused by excessive mental involvement with people who are not walking your path. Their opinions echo, their actions replay, their expectations linger. And slowly, without resistance, your mind stops being yours. Self-mastery requires sovereignty, and sovereignty begins with attention. Every thought invested in others is energy redirected away from growth, not always intentionally, often unconsciously. You wake up thinking about what someone said. You move through the day anticipating reaction. You fall asleep replaying moments that already passed. This constant outward orientation weakens inner authority. Self-mastery is not built through control of others. It is built through restraint of thought. The disciplined mind notices when attention drifts, not to suppress it, but to guide it back. Thinking less about others creates internal space. In this space, awareness sharpens, patterns emerge, intentions clarify. You begin to notice your own reactions more clearly. Why certain words disturb you. Why certain silences trigger unrest. Why approval feels comforting. This awareness is power. Without awareness, habits govern behavior. With awareness, choice returns. Thinking less about others does not make you smaller. It makes you precise. You stop absorbing emotional noise. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop shaping yourself around external variables. This precision strengthens presence. Presence is felt, not announced. It carries weight without effort. When your mind is no longer scattered, your posture changes, your voice steadies, your decisions become simpler. You no longer rush to respond. You no longer feel compelled to explain. You no longer seek reassurance. This is self-mastery in motion. It is not rigid. It is responsive. When attention remains inward, emotional balance stabilizes. You feel without drowning. You care without clinging. You observe without absorbing. Thinking less about others allows you to witness life clearly, not through the filter of projection or expectation, but through direct experience. This clarity builds trust in yourself, trust in perception, trust in timing. Self-mastery does not arrive through isolation, it arrives through discernment. You choose where to place attention. You choose which thoughts deserve engagement. You choose when to step forward and when to remain still. These choices accumulate. Over time, the mind becomes trained, not through force, but through consistency. Thinking less about others frees emotional capacity. That capacity is then invested in discipline, creativity, and purpose. You begin to build something internal that cannot be taken. And once this foundation is established, something subtle shifts. You no longer feel pulled outward. You feel grounded inward. This groundedness becomes stability. Stability becomes confidence. Confidence becomes calm. And calm prepares the mind for a deeper stillness. A stillness where freedom is no longer sought. It is lived. 17. Energy saved becomes power directed. Energy is always moving. If you do not decide where it goes, it will decide for you. Most people believe they lack power. In truth, they lack direction. Energy is spent long before action begins. It is spent in thought, in worry, in anticipation, in replay, in emotional negotiation with people who are not present. By the time the moment arrives that requires strength, the inner reserves are already depleted. Energy saved is not passive. It is stored intention. When you stop thinking excessively about others, energy returns to its source. The mind becomes quieter. The breath becomes deeper. The body becomes grounded. This is not rest. This is readiness. Saved energy gathers itself. It becomes available. It becomes responsive rather than reactive. Power is not created through effort alone. It is created through conservation. Every unnecessary emotional reaction consumes energy. Every imagined scenario drains attention. Every attempt to manage perception weakens focus. When these patterns are released, energy stops leaking. And what is saved must be directed. Undirected energy becomes restlessness. Directed energy becomes power. Direction requires clarity. Clarity requires stillness. When the mind is no longer cluttered with others' lives, your own life comes into view. Your priorities sharpen. Your values align. Your actions become deliberate. Energy directed toward discipline strengthens the body. Energy directed toward learning sharpens the mind. Energy directed toward purpose stabilizes emotion. This is not intensity, it is precision. Precision multiplies results without increasing effort. When energy is directed, time expands. You accomplish more with less strain. Movement becomes efficient. Decisions simplify. This efficiency is not rushed. It is calm. Power expressed through calm is unmistakable. Others feel it without explanation. They sense containment. They sense control. Energy save Kriya. Test presence. Presence commands space without demand. This is why those who waste less energy speak less. They do not need to convince. They do not need to prove. Their actions carry weight. Energy directed inward builds resilience. You recover faster. You adapt quicker. You remain steady under pressure. This steadiness is the mark of mastery. When challenges arise, saved energy responds. It does not panic. It does not scatter. It moves where it is needed. Directed energy also reveals what is unnecessary. You begin to recognize distractions instantly. You feel when something pulls you off course, and you let it go without conflict. This discernment protects momentum. Momentum without chaos is rare, but it is achievable. When energy is no longer wasted on others' expectations, ambition becomes clean. It is no longer driven by comparison. It is driven by alignment. This alignment sustains effort over time. Burnout comes from misdirected energy, from pushing against resistance that was never meant to be faced. Saved energy allows you to choose battles carefully, to invest fully where it matters, to withdraw without guilt where it does not. Power is not constant exertion, it is strategic engagement. When energy is directed, you stop feeling busy, you start feeling effective. Effectiveness builds confidence, not loud confidence, quiet certainty. This certainty removes urgency. You no longer rush outcomes. You trust process. Trust in process is born from NCI. Consistency is possible only when energy is managed. This management is internal. It begins with awareness. Awareness of where your thoughts go. Awareness of what triggers reaction. Awareness of what drains you without return. Once seen, these drains lose influence. You no longer argue with them. You simply redirect. Redirection is an act of authority. Each time you redirect energy toward what serves your path, power accumulates. This accumulation is gradual, but it is undeniable. One day you realize you are no longer tired for no reason. Your mind is clearer. Your body responds quicker. Your emotions stabilize. This is not coincidence. It is conservation. Energy saved becomes power directed, and power directed becomes freedom of movement. Movement without resistance, action without friction, presence without effort. And when power is finally under your command, the mind becomes ready for something greater. Because directed energy does not end in action. It leads naturally into stillness. 18. Freedom starts when you choose inner stillness over mental chaos. Freedom is not movement. It is not escape. It is not distance. Freedom is stillness chosen consciously. Most people search for freedom by changing their environment. They move places. They change people. They alter routines. They seek new beginnings. Yet the mind follows. Mental chaos does not disappear when surroundings change. It travels quietly, unpacking itself wherever you arrive. Chaos is noise outside. It is unrest inside. Inner stillness is not the absence of thought. It is the absence of resistance. The mind naturally moves. Thoughts arise and dissolve. But chaos begins when you grip them. When you follow each one. When you argue with what appears. Stillness is allowing without attachment. When you choose inner stillness, you stop chasing clarity. You stop forcing calm. You stop demanding answers immediately. You sit with what is. This sitting is not passive. It is powerful. Stillness sharpens perception. It slows reaction. It restores choice. In chaos, every thought feels urgent. In stillness, urgency dissolves. You begin to notice how many thoughts were unnecessary, how many emotions were amplified by attention, how many conflicts existed only because you kept revisiting them. Stillness interrupts this cycle. At first, stillness feels unfamiliar because chaos was habitual. Noise felt like movement. Reaction felt like engagement. When chaos quiets, the mind feels exposed. There is no distraction, no escape, only presence. This presence can feel uncomfortable because it reveals what was avoided. Stillness brings honesty. You see your fears clearly, your desires plainly, your attachments without disguise. But clarity does not judge, it informs. From this clarity, freedom grows. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is no longer being controlled by what you feel. When you choose stillness, emotions pass through rather than take over. Thoughts arise without command. Silence becomes familiar. This familiarity builds trust. You trust yourself to sit with discomfort. You trust your breath to guide rhythm. You trust awareness to navigate complexity. Mental chaos thrives on resistance. Stillness removes resistance. Chaos demands answers. Stillness allows understanding to emerge. Understanding comes slowly, but when it arrives, it stays. Freedom built on stillness is stable. It does not depend on circumstances. It does not collapse under pressure. When challenges appear, stillness responds. It does not react. Reaction narrows options. Stillness expands them. In stillness, you notice subtle cues: when to speak, when to remain silent, when to move, when to wait. This sensitivity is lost in chaos. Chaos shouts, stillness whispers. Those who learn to listen to the whisper are guided accurately. Inner stillness is not withdrawal from life. It is full engagement without entanglement. You participate without losing yourself. You care without clinging. You act without over-identifying. This balance creates freedom in motion. Freedom is waking up without mental weight. It is moving through the day without internal argument. It is resting without replay. Stillness turns rest into recovery. When the mind rests deeply, energy restores naturally, the body aligns, the nervous system settles. From this settled state, action becomes intentional. Intentional action carries less friction, less doubt, less resistance. This is why those grounded in stillness appear calm even under pressure. They are not suppressing stress. They are not detached. They are centered. Centering allows perspective. Perspective prevents overwhelm. When you choose inner stillness consistently, something subtle changes. Your tolerance for chaos decreases. Not because you avoid it, but because you no longer resonate with it. Noise feels heavy. Drama feels distant. Urgency feels unnecessary. You begin to value simplicity. Simplicity is not lack. It is refinement. You refine your thoughts. You refine your reactions. You refine your commitments. This refinement creates space. Space allows freedom to breathe. Freedom does not announce itself. It is felt quietly. It is the absence of internal pressure, the absence of constant anticipation, the absence of mental clutter. You no longer rush to fill silence. You no longer fear being alone with your thoughts, because your thoughts no longer dominate you. Stillness transforms your relationship with time. Moments expand. Waiting becomes neutral. Patience becomes natural. Impatience is born from chaos. Patience grows in stillness. When patience stabilizes, anxiety weakens. Anxiety needs speed. Stillness slows it. In slowed awareness, anxiety loses momentum. This is not suppression. It is understanding. Understanding dissolves fear. Freedom is living without unnecessary fear. Fear of missing out. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of losing control. Stillness shows that control was never the answer. Presence is. When you are present, you respond appropriately. You do not overextend. You do not withdraw excessively. You move with precision. Precision creates trust. Trust creates confidence. Confidence deepens stillness. This cycle reinforces itself. Freedom becomes sustainable. You are no longer pulled by every emotion. You are no longer driven by every thought. You choose engagement deliberately. This choice is power. Power without aggression. Strength without tension. When you choose inner stillness over mental chaos, you reclaim authorship of your life. You stop reacting to scripts written by others. You stop living inside imagined scenarios. You live here, now. This presence removes regret, because regret requires fixation on the past. It removes worry, because worry requires fixation on the future. Stillness anchors you in what is real. Reality is manageable. Illusion is exhausting. Freedom is not found in controlling outcomes. It is found in releasing unnecessary struggle. Stillness teaches surrender without weakness. You surrender resistance, not responsibility. You remain accountable, but you stop fighting what cannot be controlled. This acceptance frees energy. Energy freed supports clarity. Clarity supports direction. Direction stabilizes movement. Movement aligned with stillness feels effortless. Effortlessness is misunderstood. It is not laziness, it is alignment. Aligned F. Ought does not drain, it sustains. This is why inner stillness is not the end of the path. It is the foundation. From stillness, discipline becomes graceful. From stillness, strength becomes quiet. From stillness, wisdom becomes accessible. Freedom starts when you choose inner stillness over mental chaos. And once this choice becomes natural, the mind no longer searches because it has arrived. The path we have walked together is not about avoiding life. It is about choosing what to carry and what to release. It is about reclaiming the mind from distractions, attachments, and needless approval. It is about discovering that clarity, peace, and strength are not found outside. They are cultivated within. Every keynote we explored, protecting your mind, releasing overthinking, building discipline, letting go of attachment, mastering emotional reactions, directing energy, leads to one truth: freedom is born in stillness, focus, and self-mastery. This freedom is not theoretical, it is practical. It is yours the moment you stop giving away your energy, stop reacting to chaos, and stop measuring your life through others. It is yours when you decide to stand in yourself, fully present, fully aligned, fully aware. And this is the promise. If you take these teachings to heart, if you carry this wisdom into every choice, you will stop leaking your energy into the lives of those who do not walk your path, and you will reclaim the mental strength, peace, and self-respect that no one see and take from you. Your mind, your energy, your life, they belong to you. Guard them, direct them, and in doing so, you will walk with clarity, power, and freedom that cannot be shaken. The journey does not end here. It begins anew. Every moment, every choice, every breath,